walk because you have to burn. Now you will tell me हम तो ज़्यादा खाते नहीं हैं, हम इतना सा खाते हैं, इतना सा खाते हैं. See, when I go to the hospital, I enter my OPD, I sit there for 6 hours. I don't move a limb. Which is the key in Kana. I am just typing on the computer. I don't do anything. So what is my energy requirement? Calorie requirement मेरा कितना है? Must be hardly 1,000 kilocalories. But if I eat batta and then I eat chachoru, and not to mention मतलब और चाहे खानदरन पे आसान बिस्किट बेकरी केक्स उसके बगैर तो आजकल शादियाँ नहीं होती हैं. वाजवान I will still leave. I have a soft corner for वाजवान. Okay, वाजवान is good. It's culturally, but in moderation. But ये नहीं क्या is it पट 5 सीन का सनासिन. But ठेलन मस बारिंग just 2-3 dishes are fine. We can do with it. And वाजवान say once in 3, 4, 5 months, not an issue. But what you do for rest of the 360 days, अगर तो 5 दिन वाजवान टिको, it's not an issue. So you have to burn. So if I am not doing a lot of exercise, then I should eat less. And if I am eating good, then I have to burn it. It's very simple. Actually, there are a lot of wings what I can talk about, but I would like to say just one thing in particular. India is the diabetes capital of the world. So we are number 1 in something. And that is not a good thing to be. So we have roughly around, now we are the largest population in the world as per 2019-18 data. We had almost 77 million, that is roughly around 7-8 crore look who were affected with diabetes out of the 150. Now we have 150 crores, roughly 130-140 crore जब थे, हम 10 crore लोग diabetes से affected थे. And the same percentage, that is 8 to 10% of the population is in Kashmir also. So don't think that you are in the north and you are not affected. We have the same lifestyle, we eat like that, we exercise like that, we sleep less, we are more stressed. And it is said that, ये मेरी एक फेवरेट लाइन है, अगर हम सारे दुनिया के डायबिटिक्स को एक लाइन में रखेंगे, क्यू में रखेंगे, every 6th person will be an Indian. पूरी दुनिया में. And we are superseded in diabetes only by China. तिमन च roughly around 116 million, so that will be roughly around 16-17 crore. And number 3 is US. But India is known as the diabetes capital क्योंकि population percentage wise हमारी percentage बहुत ज़्यादा है. And why is it such an issue? Why is it such a concern? Concern is it's a lot of burden. It's a lot of economic burden. It's a lot of social burden. If you have someone in family जिसको stroke हुआ है, इस कशर पर चिमना इमें जो आग पास भी है तो गुम, कितने लोग उसके साथ involve होते हैं घर में? I think some of one किसी ना किसी के घर में होगा चाचा, uncle, दादा, नानू, someone will be there. How much cost goes into treating complications? See, if I get a diabetes patient, say around 40, A1C thoda sa hai, I'll just write diet and exercise. Patient will come after 6 months. I'll not give medicines. I am a little anti-medicine. I say parhezi kare. People clap in the auditorium, but then they don't turn back when it comes to OPDs. And that is the big issue. And I don't give medicines to PCO girls. I tell them, "Tu wale wazan tu kari hu, tu kari vi." The gynecologist and akuhan dohn dawa mein cycles ho gayi, ye bol rahi hai kuch mat khao. The issue is we are not ready to listen to what the basic problem is, and we are not ready to put in efforts. So I will say diet and exercise. Diabetes आएगा, मुझे उसको 6 महीने के बाद A1C repeat करो. Let me see if you're going up or if you're going down. So what they will do, they will change the doctor. दवाई नहीं दी. But why do you want to pop a pill? Yesterday I had a patient, just yesterday, and she was on 3 anti-diabetic medication. And she was not that obese. And I told her, she said, मेरे को 2-4 दिनों से sugar, 2-4 महीनों से sugar बढ़ रहा है. She showed me a list of medicines and she was on a good number of anti-diabetic drugs, medicines. I said, what do you eat in a day? She said nothing. बना ना बात ख्याव ही नहीं. मैं तो बोली खुदा, एक तो ये पतली है, ये पतली नहीं है मतलब relatively पतली है कश्मीरी standards से. So I said, and you don't eat bata at all? She said, no, I don't eat. I said, what do you eat in a day? Like impressed. तुम लोग सुबह वथान बस नून चाय से 2 कांदर चोच खेवान 500 रुपयन हज पे दुपहरस खेवान 1 कांदर चोट पे दिगरस खेवान ब्या कांदर चोट पे शोंगन वज 2 चोच खेवान बे. I was like खे बात तमा अंदी कह इत पे अंदी न कहीं. And I reduced her medicines. And if you ask medico-legally, like it's your lawyers, अगर इनमें कोर्टस मज रटन, हे अमसे वो शुगर हाई से करो तमिस दवा बंद. मगर मे छु तत लेखुन पेवान, stop kandar roti also. So I told her, come back to me in 2 weeks. Let us stop your kandar roti. Let me give you a relatively protein-based diet. If you're 80% carbs, if you're taking diet as 80% carbs, let me reduce it to 30 to 40% because you're a sedentary lifestyle worker. Like all of us who are sitting here, we are all sedentary workers. Agar tu it campuses nachiv tu ichu sedentary maman. Yus nebr ken mozur seri chu tulan baltimas, dohas chu timis kashir pet rath vasan. He is a heavy worker. And if they eat a lot, they're still thin. And somewhere who is in between these two groups is a moderate worker. So if I consume 5 to 6 kandar rotis and then I say I don't eat anything, then it's a big blunder. So I reduced her drugs. तुम ताहे करूँ मैं दवा कम मैं तो चकर चोच मान बहावे चकर पर कैसी sugar चखे दो non time and बात. So I asked her to eat rice, little quantity, stop roti. There's a concept here that if we eat 2 rotis, it is not equal to rice. And it's a general myth. And another myth is there कि बहुत चुसे बात प्यारा. मेहरबानी करिए बात गैस न प्यार. Because it takes away the micronutrients जो होते हैं जिसमें essentially thiamine आता है. बात प्यार न सुचुन sugar काम गसान कि चाहे सो कश्मीर ऐसिन पंजाब ऐसिन या बासमती ऐसिन. बात गैस न प्यार कि this is the most frequently asked question. And even if you answer it, वो नहीं मानते मुझे तो ये बात प्यारा मुझे उन बेहवाई नहीं ये बात प्यार न सिद्ध गया ताकि ना sorry माय नहीं आना सुचुन माय आसान there are multivitamins and minerals which you are throwing away. The carbs are just there. Instead, just take a small quantity. Take salad, take dahi. मैं हज़ द्राव sugar, patient normal. मैं हज़ द्राव sugar अच्छा. मैं हज़ कर लिप्टन चाय बांध बेकुर में माज़ बांध. Is anything wrong in this? If they say, I was like, "Ch Lipton chai the, ch kya maaz, ch kar baat ba." Magar me hus un hamsayin ch maaz ch khatam ga sayin sa. Maaz is protein. It is protein, especially if it's cooked properly. Okay, tell me one thing. How many of you came here by choice? Honest. And how many of you were forced? Honestly, ये teachers कुछ नहीं करेंगे आपको trust me. कितने लोग force से यहाँ आए? This is an honest lawyer. Huh? You will not do well in life. Khatam. Pocha someone lawyers. Most of you were forced, if I can make out from your faces and the way you were sitting and listening to us. Why I'm telling you this, I'm giving you a concept of what we call the pathogenesis of, actually metabolic syndrome which बात करें. Metabolic syndrome, obesity, इसका root cause है insulin resistance. अब आप बोलो कि उसका और इसका क्या आप क्या फ़ायदा. इमेजिन दिस इज़ अ सेल. बॉडी में बहुत सारी सेल्स होती हैं, हर जगह सेल होती है. दिस इज़ अ सेल, एक सेल है बॉडी की. ये स्टमक की सेल है, ये मसल की सेल है. दिस एंटायर ऑडिटोरियम एंड यू आर ऑल ग्लूकोज मॉलिक्यूल्स. शुगर या कशिर पे इन लेमैन टर्म वी से शुगर. तो यह सारी शुगर मॉलिक्यूल आख एंड योर टीचर्स आर इंसुलिन. क्या है कशिर पे मन क्या अतस के तासा रजिस्ट्रेशन कराओ, नाम लिखाओ, अटेंडेंस होगी सबकी, ऑडिटोरियम में टॉ के अंदर जाओ. यही होता था. मतलब हमारे साथ भी होता था. आई डोंट नो इफ दे आर एबल टू डू दैट विद लॉट स्टूडेंट्स. तुम ऐसे थोड़ा तेज़ी पहम MBBS मुझे सारी खोचा दैट वी विल बी फ्लंक्ड, फेल कर देंगे भाई, ऑडिटोरियम जाओ. और मैंने कर्नाटका में MBBS किया. वहाँ कन्नड़ प्रोग्राम चल रहे होते थे. सारे कन्नड़ प्रोग्राम देखती थी मैं क्योंकि मुझे फेल नहीं होना होता था. So why I'm telling you this, like consider your teachers as insulin molecules and you are all who are students, you're all glucose molecules and this is a cell. So what is the capacity of this hall, any idea? Around 200, right. So कितने glucose molecules यहाँ बैठ सकते हैं? 200. Okay, so roughly यहाँ 150 तक होंगे roughly. So how much capacity is left? 50. So another teacher, मैम आएंगी, सर आएंगे और 50 बच्चों को अंदर बुला बुला बुला, बस go hall fill. So सेल भर गई ग्लूकोज से. ग्लूकोज आता है इन्हीं मैदे की रोटी से और उसे कशर बात खियावा सफ़ेद बात. So you are all sitting here. Now another strict teacher comes or your principal comes or I don't know who all your heads are here. They are like नहीं और 50 बच्चों को घुसा. 200 की कैपेसिटी है और 50 बच्चों को घुसा तो 250. और आएगा कोई और घुसाएगा सो 300. वहाँ क्या गैस सेल है? सेल. इवेंचुअली अगर कोई टीचर वहाँ से आएगा भी फिर और घुस पाएंगे? नहीं घुस पाएगा. सो वंस यू हैव एक्सेस ऑफ ग्लूकोज, eventually insulin cannot drive in more glucose into the cells. That is called insulin resistance. You got my point? That means teacher resistance. Hey यार मैं ये क्या बोल रहे हैं, already 300 बच्चे हैं आके किस पेट खरीद में, and still we are asked to go in when there is no place. हम क्या एक दूसरे की गोद में बैठेंगे? So eventually if you load your body with glucose, you eat white rice, white bread. See, everything white is not good. White fat. Body में 2 types के fat होते हैं roughly, white and brown. White चमना white के स्नासु. I'll come to your question of external internal fat. So चमना brown bread खाना, it's good. We are taking brown rice. You know, you people have heard brown rice? Brown fat. Brown is good. Maybe not as a complexion, but everything else brown is good. Everything white is bad. Your white rice compared to brown rice, not good. You have white bread, not good. Okay? You have white fat in your body, it is not good. Brown fat is relatively good. So if you store your body with excess of white things, excess of refined carbs and fats, eventually your body will be like, मेरा पेट फट गया, बस इतना ही. इंसुलिन बोल रहा है नहीं, मेरे को इतना ग्लूकोज आ रहा है, मैं इसको कहाँ भेजूँ? आप जाओ अंदर. सो इंसुलिन को मतलब अगर वहाँ से एक टीचर को ये काम करना था, अब 3 टीचर्स को काम करना पड़ता है, अब 4 टीचर्स को काम करना पड़ता है. सो इट इज़ कॉल्ड इंसुलिन रेजिस्टेंस. नाउ द सेल इज़ लाइक नो आई एम डन, आई कैन नॉट टेक मोर देन दिस. एंड मोस्ट ऑफ दीज मेटाबॉलिज्म इट हैपन्स इन योर लिवर. लिवर बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट ऑर्गन है बॉडी में. प्लीज़ इसकी कदर करना सीखिए. फैटी लिवर किस किस को है यहाँ पे? गिल्टी एज चार्ज्ड. सर ने आराम से हाथ उठा दिया. सो फैटी लिवर होता क्यों है? अगेन दिस कंसेप्ट. इट्स लाइक जब लिवर में ग्लूकोज जाता है ग्लूकोज के लिवर कहता है बस बहकने में बे ग्लूकोज रेट के लेट मी कन्वर्ट इट इनटू फैट और सोजान ब्लड स्ट्रीम में. चलो जी मैं इतना ग्लूकोज नहीं रख सकता हूँ, तो वो ब्लड स्ट्रीम में भेज देता है. एंड दैट इज़ व्हेन योर शुगर स्टार्ट गोइंग अप, यू टर्न डायबिटिक. बिकॉज लिवर कैन नॉट टेक एक्सेस. इट्स लाइक अ बैंक. मेरे पास 10,000 रुपये रखो, अब मेरे पास 10,000 एक आ गया तो मैं ब्लड स्ट्रीम में फेंकूँगा. देन व्हाट दे डू, अब जब ग्लूकोज बहुत आ गया, बहुत ज़्यादा ग्लूकोज लिवर में आ गया, लिवर कहता है लेट मी स्टोर इट, लेट मी कन्वर्ट इट. उसको बोलते हैं डी नोवो लाइपोजेनेसिस. लाइक लेट मी कन्वर्ट इट इनटू फैट विच माई ये द्राग वाग then I will use it that time. Right? So this glucose is converted into fat. Exactly, I'll come to that. Your mom is very smart, by the way. So liver says let me store it as fat. Liver to fat jama kara, then it's like I can't hold this much fat, let me throw it into the blood. फिर आपकी TGs बढ़ने लगते हैं. इनसे द्राग कोलेस्ट्रॉल सुना होगा ना सबने, इनसे द्राग कोलेस्ट्रॉल. So before you get diabetes and high cholesterol, you have a fatty liver. Liver tells you that ज़्यादा पहम कि हम थोड़ा करियो काम. But when patients come to me, they tell like, डॉक्टर साहब ऐसे छु ना शुगर, ना छु ऐसे प्रेशर, ना छु ऐसे कोलेस्ट्रॉल, मैं छु सिर्फ fatty liver. But what does it tell to a doctor? It tells a doctor कि अगर अमिस फैटी लिवर छु बुथि गछन अमिस यम चीज. So we tell them अस क्या छु दवा खियोन. This is the first question. अस क्या छु फैटी लिवर त्रामुत अत क्या छु दवा खियोन. अख चीज छु कशरन मगर मतलब we are happy in taking medicines. बस हर चीज में दवाई. मतलब we don't want to do anything. दवा फैले ना सुबह थायराइड फॉल, शुगर फॉल, चर्बी हुन फॉल, प्रेशर फॉल. अगर मैं बोलूँगी कांदर चोट कर बान ऐसे कुछ बनाए गए चोट ऐसे उनका है. No one. I had a patient just yesterday. She was 40 years old. And then I told her, do you take dry fruits? Do you take fish? Do you take healthy diet? Fruits. She said, I cannot afford it. She had come to Paris and paid 600 rupees OPD fees. I said, then why did you come to Paris if you can't afford simple things? She said, I have got a lot of tests. And the tests she showed me, they were worth 20,000 rupees. And I told her, if the test you would have been in a better position. So, हमको इतनी resistance क्यों है परहेज के साथ? Because changing lifestyle is very difficult. This was 30 years back, roughly in around 80-90s. ये study हुई थी कि इंडिया में कितने मोटे हैं और कितने पतले हैं. Then later 30 years back, when again the study was conducted, हम कहाँ पहुँच गए थे? ऊपर. Males पहुँच गए थे 15 से number 5 पे. मगर औरतें यहाँ आगे निकली. हम 15 से number 3 पे पहुँच गए. So Indian females are the most obese. उससे आगे सिर्फ 2 ही मुल्क. And the reason is because we are licking all that oil and everything. We are not taking proteins, we are taking oils. And we are taking carbs. And they are saying, teel bilkul kam khyawa. This is the concept which I wanted to share. Agar tu teel chu kam khyawa, which I told you, tu chu bat zyada khyawa, tsoiche khyawa. Yith pat me won, you should go to sugar as convert gasan, pat yelne liver chu ekan bardashi kiri, su chu charb bana. So only cutting oil is not an option. Cut your carbs and cut your refined carbs, not your complex carbs. So complex carbs kaun se hote hain? Can anyone tell me? Anyone a science student here? Oats. Yes. I'm very happy someone answered that. We eat oats. Right. Oats are complex carbs. Why is there a fashion of oats? Every diabetic patient who has come for relatively affluent families is was oats. It's a definite question. Why? Yes, oats are complex carbs, but what do we mean by complex carbs? It is exactly like you should kosh oat. Because even if it has carbs, it has some amount of fibers. इसलिए ये यर्डमस ओट्स चिवातान या कोश ओट छुना तो पेट बोलता है नहीं इसको थोड़ा डाइजेस्ट करने के लिए मुझे भी मेहनत करनी पड़ेगी तो अपने एंजाइम्स अपनी मशीनरी स्टार्ट कर देता है पैनक्रियाज से एंजाइम्स आते हैं यहाँ से आते हैं वहाँ से आते हैं बट व्हेन यू ईट आशीर्वाद की रिफाइंड रोटी द एंजाइम्स आर लाइक आई शुड ईट कर किस पानी डाइजेस्ट इट इज़ वाइट आटा हमें कुछ नहीं करना है सो इवन इफ यू आर टेकिंग ओट्स दैट डजंट मीन यू विल टेक त्रखंड ऑफ इट हर कोई थोड़ा पोर्शन कंट्रोल जिसे हम बोलते हैं even if and more than oats I like to say eat dalia is 500 rupees नहीं वहाँ यूता पैकेट it's cheap so if मेरे पास कोई like villagers आते हैं and everyone they don't know what oats are so I tell them get a packet of dalia it's very simple to cook it's cheap it's a complex carb but that doesn't mean that you will eat a cooker of dalia suchu kam ikhon suchu carbohydrate but it's a complex carb relatively your body will need some energy to break it down there is no issue in eating meat and chicken if your kidney functions and heart allow you बेच ये concept ये हमसायन वो तीच में कर तमिस आस्तन किडनी दोद हार्ट दोद मे वोन न तम जून खेजम न कह जून पे सारी लगित जून खेजम न कह वाई जून खेजम मासूम सी जून ने क्या किया जरा मुझे बताइए हाँ ऐसे शट I have literally seen people taking 6 boiled eggs and throwing away 6 zoon. I was like, मुझे दे दो मैं खाऊंगी. Recently we had an airport camp, right? It was wonderful. I got to see one patient and He was 21, 22 years old, roughly around your people age. I don't know tۄہہِ کیٛاہ چھو age, تُہُنٛد age ہُنٛد اوس. Young male going to gym, and he said, I am taking a protein-based diet. And he was constipated to hell. I said, what do you take? He said, morning में air fryer में chicken बनाता हूँ, मैं सुबह chia seeds, flax seeds, methi seeds, da seeds. When ऐसे तो पे ना hitching, because you people are, I mean, taking so many seeds. हमें तो पता ही नहीं था ये भी होता है. मतलब मेरे ज़माने में इस बाबर ब्योल चावल, ताच वाना basil seeds, which were very common. बे कतीर जो हम माह रमज़ान में पीते हैं, right? But now chia seeds are there, flax seeds are there, pumpkin seeds are there. Pach pe ma aise parun manges payas in doctors in ne baji kya chana. So I said, why are you taking so many chia seeds, so much of chia seeds? He said, because it's fiber. I said, why don't you take haq? Haq kiso? Taka chia seeds kyun? You know what chia seeds, once they swell up, they clog your intestines. And he was taking buttloads of chia seeds. Like really. And then he was cooking everything in air fryer. I have nothing against. Me to so much newly asan kuni visa shu asan. And what was the worst thing he was doing? He said, I take 12 raw eggs in the morning. Without yolk. Only whites. I was like, you're a mess. Andar ki non mas nahi ke. I said, you take, yes, he said proteins, because I need to take 2 grams per kg. I'm 71 kg. I need to take 140 grams of proteins. I said, that is proteins. What about carbs? What about fibers? What about minerals? What about vitamins? I said, why don't you take dahi? Why do you take chia seeds and I take protein powder? I said, why? मैं तो यूथ मांस कॉकर फिश खाऊं बेना चुस मैं मम्मी का हाथ का कुछ नहीं खाता हूँ मैं सारा खुद बनाता हूँ. I said, after how many days do you pass stools? He said, after 5-6 days. Kashmir khatrichi word kath. For US people, it's not a big deal. But if you're constipated at 21 by overdoing proteins, especially if young boys here, it's just a protein shake. It's a very common thing. Anything that is processed, that is tinned, that is canned, that is frozen, should be avoided. Simple. Why are you taking protein shakes? Why? Maaz khev gair. Dal, me to kar tsum khe ba thul, me to khe tre thul tsi set boil karid be. And I told him, agar aapko protein hi khana hai, maa ko bolo cooker aakh banao rajma dal. Soya asni man gym te tiyas kya protein shake bol. And why are you undercooking your food? Why raw eggs? But somehow he didn't believe me. Chia seeds, if you open net, especially wo shorts, 7 benefits of chia seeds, 10 benefits of pumpkin seeds, 12 benefits of flax seeds. Don't overdo anything. It's true of proteins, it's true of carbs, it's true of fat, it's true of vitamins, it's true of minerals. And the issue with these protein shakes, the issues are that inme sab mein preservative hota hai. Pesticides, insecticides, and they are all endocrine disruptors. And then we come back to what? PCOS, because endocrine disruptors create havoc with your ovaries, with your pituitary gland, and with thyroid. Endocrine disruptors, just Google it if someone has a phone in hand. What are endocrine disruptors? This zahar yus is khawan. Gair mes ke mesh word cha kans gair kitchen garden. Khad kon dalta hai. Pache asan diwan he cockroach injection kara. Hey, मुझे माँ बोलती हैंडविन दे सा अनई क्या यह वजू गसान मे ना पत्किन वार मज मामस वन मे यूरिया खाद पोटैश खाद मे सह जार तथ वन पे वार टमाटर really. And for organic stuff we are paying extra. I mean, just open your eyes to this. Why are we paying extra for something we are not getting? It's like इसमें फर्टिलाइजर है मिनरल है ये 10 रुपए का है इसमें कुछ नहीं है 20 रुपए का है you should pure by no. But the idea is we have to sort of defertilize our eateries, everything. And जैसे मेरे घर में बोलते हैं अगर न इस बार त्राव अत खस न कहीं I tell खासी निके, and that is the biggest issue that has gripped us. So we are eating everything we are eating, it is adulterated. Now you will ask me, then what to eat? अगर तुम मनान छो हाथ तिशु जहर या तिशु जहर या, so I tell everyone अगर जहरी खाना है थोड़ा कम क्वांटिटी में खाओ, क्योंकि हम अवॉइड तो नहीं कर सकते हैं. मन छन सारे घर वर क्या पता ना वो गाय हूँ गुह तो सु त्रावस ना चु कॉकर राशन पचे रैक जमा करने पचे तिम त्रावने. So I tell you, okay, eat this, but at least don't eat Lays and कुरकुरे, वो जहर थोड़ा कम कर दो. Because PCOS is not as common as it is made to sound. So the idea is ये छु be वारिया common concept. मे छु thyroid मे छा boil करी त्रियस चे, ये छु वारिया प्रसान में. Ideally the water we are getting needs boiling. कैसे उसे sewerage system छु सु छु close to our water pipes. So we are never sure from where our water is coming. अच्छु शायद रंगिल पेट यमान अच्छु सुमार वाला यूवी प्योरिटस मस त्रावा हमारे घर में, we don't boil it, but in places there is a need to boil. You have to check it, you know, there's a department in water department तिमन छु आसान, you take a sample and tell them to check it if it is good enough for drinking. It is your right. RTI is to pay lawyers and all. So you can go and ask them, do we need to boil it? You can do it. But I cannot use it as a blanket statement. But yes, you should boil if there is concern that the water pipes are close to sewerage pipes. But I don't think it is my domain. Just the department. You got my point? But what my domain is that people ask me, I say, thyroid, ichema boil kari tresh kin? It's more simple tresh. It has no effect on thyroxine production, so it doesn't matter, right? You know where estrogen comes from? Anyone has any idea estrogen कहाँ से आता है? या male hormone कौन सा या female hormone कौन सा? Any idea? Okay, so I'll tell you. Just give me 5 minutes to answer this question, okay? So we have a gland in our brain जिसको pituitary gland बोलते हैं. किसी ने सुना है? Anyone from science stream? There's a small gland, pituitary gland. पिट्यूटरी ग्लैंड में से 6 चीज़ें निकलती हैं. TSH, थायराइड छू तो सारे वूजमुत, राइट? Then there is TSH works on a thyroid gland which is present in front of the neck. Then there's a prolactin जो females में at the time of delivery act करता है और वहाँ से दूध निकलता है. Then there is ACTH जो adrenal glands पे यम kidney पे gland से ताचे चुके हम करा. Then there is growth hormone जो हमें बड़ा करता है. And then there is LHFSH. LHFSH in males goes to the testis and they secrete testosterone, right? LHFSH goes to ovaries in females and they secrete estrogen and progesterone, right? So estrogen progesterone का काम क्या है? They go to the uterus, okay? They prime the endometrium which is in the inner lining of the uterus and they say कि आपको monthly cycle कैसे करना है. There's a very beautiful system made by Allah. Very beautiful system. वहाँ से pituitary से निकला, ovaries पे act किया, uterus पे आया, and that is how a cycle woman gets a cycle. So, do females get testosterone? Do we have testosterone in our bodies? Yes. And what is the source? Males में testis से निकलता है, females में कहाँ से निकलता है? Sorry? किम तामोन क्या था यहाँ पर? बोलो बेटा, if you are wrong, I am not going to kill you. Don't worry. किसी ने बोला. So we have 2 sources. One is ovary. Yes, ovary से थोड़ा निकलता है और adrenal gland से थोड़ा निकलता है. So there is a fine, beautiful balance between this high level of estrogen we have and this little level of testo we have. If they work in cognizance, nothing will happen. Nothing will happen. But we are disrupting that. We are disrupting this beautiful balance in the form of when we are obese. हमारी जो obesity है, there is a factor which is released from our liver, उसको IGF-1 बोलते हैं, insulin like growth factor 1. उससे हमारी बॉडी में उन जगहों पे proliferation होती है जहाँ नहीं होनी चाहिए, cell proliferation, and uterus is one of the sites. And that is why in obese ladies we get fibroids more, we get endometrial hyperplasias more. So what happens is, when an obese lady comes to me, مےٚ حظ چھُ uterus's منٛز fibroid, it's an answer to your question. Obese lady, please take it as a quote. Obese lady comes to me and she says, مےٚ حظ ہیوٚژُن ماہوٲری زیادٕ گژھٕنۍ, مےٚ حظ چھُ uterus's منٛز fibroid, and she is diabetic and she is obese. I tell her, why don't you reduce your weight and let's see what happens. She says, مےٚ حظ ووٚن gynecologist ژٕ پیٚیہِ uterus کَڑُن. Is that a solution? No. The solution is, if you have a BMI, actually obesity के BMI cutoffs हमारे लिए Asians के लिए 23 हैं, बाहर के लिए 25 हैं. So if we have a high BMI, high weight, if you are obese, liver कहता है जी IGF-1 निकालो, हर जगह proliferation करो. तो जहाँ चीज़ें नहीं होनी चाहिए थी वहाँ होती हैं, and in females it presents as that they have increased bleeding. So if you tell them you reduce your weight, your bleeding will settle, they don't listen. They go to a gynecologist, get their uterus removed. That's the end of the story. That is why I tell you, we have a lot of muck in the system. Yesterday I saw a patient जिसका gall bladder remove हुआ था क्योंकि उसको small GB polyp था, which is not an indication for cholecystectomy. Again, because she was a diabetic. So these polyps and fibroids will keep on coming in different places if you have diabetes. And same is the case with PCOS. अगर आप healthy lifestyle नहीं जिएंगे, you will have a polycystic ovaries on ultrasound, but that doesn't mean you have polycystic ovarian syndrome. Let me tell you once and for all, अगर आप gynecologist के पास जाते हैं and they tell you you have PCO, that doesn't mean you have PCOS. Polycystic ovaries होना एक normal बात है if it is within a range, क्योंकि that is how your follicle recruitment is done by the hormones in the body. उसी से ovulation होती है, उसी से cycles होते हैं, उसी से pregnancy होती है. So follicles are normally seen in the ovaries. I am concentrating on this part because यहाँ से ज़्यादा लड़कियाँ. So just getting a USG and seeing PCO morphology doesn't mean you have PCOS. So don't rush to a gynecologist, don't rush to a dermatologist just because you have one hair on somewhere on the face. You don't have PCOS.
Good afternoon to all the participants, because this is a sort of a presentation or discussion which is the need of the hour. As was earlier told by Salima ji, I have been working with medicine for almost 30 years now. I'm not a doctor, of course. My interest is entirely different, to discover why from medicine have come and what sort of discoveries have been made which have resulted in not only using natural sources as a remedial measure, but also guiding a patient as to when, how much, and in which way medicine can be used. You might have heard about different systems that are operative in the world, but the backbone of these systems is an accidental discovery of any source which can help us to overcome a disease. One of the most famous quote is that a Chinese emperor discovered accidentally that he could not kill any animal during his hunting duration throughout the day. In the evening, he wanted his followers to prepare water for him having a bath. They boiled water, asked him to have a bath. After having a bath, he told them what you have used in that water. They were afraid. Perhaps he has faced some problem, and they tried to hide the container in which they had boiled the water. And in that container, he found certain plant parts, leaves, branchlets, etc. And he asked them to collect these branches and boil them again, and asked one of his followers to have a bath. And after having a bath, he asked him what you have faced. He told him that I have refreshed, relaxed, all muscles, all tiredness is gone. He left his kingdom and he wrote a book known as Punzao. Name of the emperor is Shennung. Punzao's history is almost 3000 BC, that is around 5000 years old. That is the backbone of medicine. Accidental discovery of a plant part, leaf, relaxing all the muscles of his body after the whole day's tiredness, resulted in inducing him a concept to find out what the causes of the disease are, what can be the remedial measure. And that has resulted in what we at present use. And in almost every part of the world, the ancestral history, ethnic knowledge, tribal, as Madam rightly pointed in the beginning, the Gujar communities travel from Kashmir to almost Rajasthan and Gujarat every year, and they consume huge quantity of food in the morning, but they have never any body structure that depicts fattiness, because they consume as per the requirements. And that in turn helps us to travel. I am not trying to get appreciation of myself, even though I should have at this stage been very fatty. But reason for that is I am technically a traveler a lot. My work was on medicine, and I have traveled from the Kashmir University campus to the base of Sechin Glacier by foot, assessing all areas, what sort of plants there are, what sort of minerals they have, what sort of, not only plants and minerals, what animal organs they can use as a remedial measure for a disease. Because in Chinese and Ladakh system of medicine, they use sometimes blood of animals, animal organs, etc. for overcoming diseases. And I travel a lot. And that traveling gave me two concepts. In order to be able to travel from low altitude to high altitude, your respiratory system should be active, and you should be able to sustain whatever sort of deficiency of oxygen we have in Ladakh belt. In Ladakh, we have very deficient oxygen concentration. And once people from Kashmir reach Khardungla, highest road in the world, they feel suffocated, and there they provide, RB provides oxygen free of cost and other facilities on that. But I never had any need for that. And my scholars demanded, sir, suffocation ho raha hai, kuch chahiye hame. I got them oxygen from the army camp, but myself I never felt the same deficiency, because I had traveled to that belt when I was a student and when I was a scholar. Now even at this stage, I travel a lot. That has in turn induced in my body some sort of adaptability to whatever sort of conditions I am facing, stress I am facing. And when I interacted with local people who are using different sources as a remedial measure, discussed them with, why do you use this? At what stage you use this? And they told me, we use this plant, this part at this stage. That induced in me a concept, why at this stage? Why only this part? Why not the whole plant? Why not in any season? I analyzed the plant chemically. I found that even though chemical is seen right from the day the plant starts growing, up to the complete sense when it is getting killed or completes its life cycle, component is there, but only at a particular stage, concentration of that component is at its peak. And that actually guided me that he is a tribal community member, has no knowledge of phytochemistry, has no knowledge of pharmaceutically analyzing what is lying in this plant at what stage. But his experimentation by using the plant in different ways gave him the concept that not at green stage, not at the peak of flowering, but at the sense that is when the color of the plant changes from greenness to paleness, he can collect and use it. And I determined that at that stage, concentration of that active principle is at its peak, and they were using it. And such plants, as Madam will bear me out, such plants are now labeled as official in pharmacopoeias, and it is mentioned which plant at which stage and which part can be used and what is the way of extraction of that component. And imagine, despite working for 30 long years on this field and documenting about 1300 plus medicinal plants, I can't say that I know everything about all these plants and all the properties of active components within those plants and how to use those. We have documented 1300 plus plants. That is actually now available at the UGC website, because we had a project sponsorship from UGC of almost 3 crore rupees to document all the information. We have given them all the information. Now that in turn shows that we have opened up a field for medical practitioners to see whether really in this plant there is something which can be used as a remedial measure and how to use it. Similarly, in Ladakh we have certain hot water springs. And I asked them, what do you use these for? They told us, just have a bath and see what happens. I had a bath. First thing I felt was I got relaxed after having a bath. Second, they told me check your head after a couple of days, after a couple of baths, see what will happen. I found that whatever dandruff sort of problems I faced and whatever thinness of the hair I had, it was gradually getting overcome. I analyzed that water for its chemical properties. I found that there are many of those chemicals in that hot water spring water that can actually overcome the dandruff problems and increase density and strength of the hair. If any one of you has gone to Ladakh, you will see that the Ladakhi community has dark hair, dark black colored hair even up to the age of 80. I've seen that. And density of the hair is so dominant that you will very rarely see barren heads because they use that water. And they travel at the age of 80 up to the top of Khardungla. Khardungla is 18,360 feet high. They travel at the age of even 80 up to the top of that. I asked them, man, how? And they told us, we consume this water, we consume this plant, we consume this thing and that thing. And that opened up many fields wherein medicine was discovered within those sources, and each plant, each mineral, each water body, or sometimes other animal organs that they use reveal that everything should be understood in toto and then recommend to the consumer as to how they can use the natural source as a medicine. And what sort of primitive measures they should actually use to overcome a disease. One thing that ma'am highlighted, see, when we walk in a field or when we go for picnic purposes, when we walk just for entertainment purposes, we all of a sudden sit down and relax, sort of tilt sideways. In Ladakh, one order is that when you walk, you stop, of course, but never suddenly sit down. That was one lesson I learned. They never, after traveling for say half an hour or 1 hour, they would stop, but they would never sit down. They would just rotate here and there for some time more. I asked them why. They told us that every muscle, every organ is so active during the travel, and all of a sudden we retard its activity. We suddenly sit down, retard its activity. After some time we feel that almost all the joints, all the muscles are jammed. Now imagine, they had no medical sort of degrees, and I learned that this is absolutely correct. If I run and all of a sudden sleep, when I wake up, all my muscles are slightly restricted, so constrained. And these lessons in turn give us a concept that once we walk, once we play, never all of a sudden go to your bed to sleep. And for some time, just relax each muscle, each part of the body. Such lessons have actually been the backbone of whatever different therapies or treatments we use. And what madam is trying to highlight is that do we understand what could be the reason and what could be the way we can overcome such problems. And I hope whatever she is going, I hope she discusses for more than 1 hour again, because what she highlighted is something that I've been discussing with my scholars. Because my scholars, and for the information of the audience, out of 8 scholars that I have, 5 are girls. And they actually travel to high altitude belts without any problem. And they can go to top of the Tajwas Glacier without any problems. They have that knowledge how to do the survey, documentation, collection and experimentation, and each organ of the body is always functional. And that is where I have tried to give them some concepts, how to do it and what to avoid, what not to avoid. And what the madam was highlighting is helping us or will help you to understand exactly what could be the probable cause, what could be the way one can actually resist that sort of ailment or that sort of pain. And at the end, I would hope and pray that all of you, one by one, will try to interact. Because delivering a lecture or discussing some topic is not the ultimate outcome of this particular gathering. Outcome should be that every person who is sitting in the audience has a question, has a suggestion, has a proposal, so that they can in turn be sort of discussed, and an outcome will help us to understand what the concept of this particular gathering is. See, despite my busy schedule, I still conduct classes twice a week. Why? Because I feel that if I don't conduct a class, perhaps my body will retard from class activities. Very simple explanation, because I conduct classes twice a week. For my classes of 1.5 hour duration, 3 hours I conduct classes in the Department of Botany, and students are waiting, sir, RA. Even though, as per my designation, there is no need to conduct a class. But this I do just to keep my whole body organ functional. Speak. Use my mind to think what I have to teach them. Try to understand the topic and try to deliver the lecture to make them understand what my understanding of the topic and what they should understand. Same way, what she is highlighting will help us to understand what could be the probable cause of that particular ailment and what can be the remedial measures, so that instead of facing that problem, we will avoid that problem as a whole. And what questions or what points were raised by some of the boys and girls, I was so happy that they had these points, because this is the backbone of understanding the causes and trying to see what can be the remedial measure. I will again apologize, I have to basically attend a meeting. Madam will be waiting for me. Hope and pray that in the concluding session, when the Madam interacts with all the students and scholars who are here and the faculty members, outcome will reflect that this sort of gathering can help us to understand exactly how we can understand a disease, how we can actually be able to avoid occurrence of that disease at a very in the later stage of our life. Plus, try to educate our youngsters that they should take these preventive measures so that they in turn can actually guide their own progeny also. Hope and pray my few comments about what my knowledge about medicine is would have helped you to understand what the significance of such lectures in these gatherings are. Thank you very much.
सी ने लेट अस टॉक हेल्थ के उन्वान पर एक सीरीज़ का आगाज़ किया है, ताकि हम अपनी बच्चों की पढ़ाई के साथ साथ उनकी सेहत का भी ख्याल रखें। इसी सिलसिले में हमने चंद रोज़ कबल शोबे सोशल वर्क और कैंसर सोसाइटी ऑफ कश्मीर के इश्तिराक से एक प्रोग्राम यहाँ मुनक़िद किया था, अंडरस्टैंडिंग डिफरेंट टाइप्स ऑफ कैंसर्स। और आज का जो ये लेक्चर था, ये उसी सिलसिले की एक कड़ी है जो हमने पारस हस्पताल के इश्तिराक से मुनक़िद किया। इस ज़िमन में हमें मुख्तलिफ़ शोबजात से ताउन हासिल रहा। सबसे पहले मैं हमारे डीन रिसर्च प्रोफेसर इरशाद अहमद नावचू, जो हर वक्त हमारी कॉल पर लब्बाई करते हैं और अपनी सभी मसरूफ़ियात को छोड़कर यहाँ आते हैं, उनका शुक्रगुज़ार हूँ, और जिन्होंने मेडिसिनल प्लांट्स के बारे में हमें यहाँ पे अच्छी खासी जानकारी दी और अपनी सेहत का राज भी हमें आज बता दिया। मैं पारस अस्पताल के जोनल डायरेक्टर डॉक्टर जितेंद्र अरोरा का शुक्रिया अदा करता हूँ, जिन्होंने EMRC का इंतखाब किया इस प्रोग्राम को मुनक़िद करने के लिए। हम आगे भी आपके साथ इस नौइयत के प्रोग्राम को जारी रखने के मुतमन्नी हैं, ख्वाहिशमंद हैं। हम यूनिवर्सिटी के हेल्थ सेंटर के भी मशकूर हैं, जिन्होंने अपना ताउन पेश किया। और आज की जो की नोट स्पीकर डॉक्टर महरूसा थी, तो अगर उनके इस बसीरत अफरोज़ और इंतहाई खूबसूरत लेक्चर को अगर मैं 2 लफ्ज़ों में समेट लूँ, तो वो है हम आहंगी और एतदाल, कंपैटिबिलिटी एंड मॉडरेशन। तो वी शुड लिव अवर लाइफ विद ऑल एतदाल। ज़िंदगी को एतदाल में जियो, तो फिर दवाई खाने की कोई ज़रूरत नहीं है, डॉक्टर के पास जाने की भी ज़रूरत नहीं है। सो मैं डॉक्टर महरूसा का इंतहाई मशकूर हूँ, जिन्होंने इस अहम मौजू पर बसीरत अफरोज़ खुतबा दिया। मुझे यकीन है कि उनके इस हकीमाना और तजुर्बा याफ्ता मालूमात से हमें बहुत इस्तिफ़ादा होगा। मैं डायरेक्टर EMRC डॉक्टर सलीमा जान का मशकूर हूँ, जो ऐसी काविशों में हमेशा सबकत लेती हैं। ये उनकी सलाहियतें ही हैं कि EMRC मस्बत नवियत के कामकाज में मसरूफ़ अमल रखता है। मैं शोबे कानून, शोबे एजुकेशन के सरबराहान प्रोफेसर मोहम्मद हुसैन और प्रोफेसर महमूद साहब का तहे दिल से शुक्रिया अदा करता हूँ, जिन्होंने इस प्रोग्राम की कामयाबी में हमारा ताउन किया और अपने बच्चों के जो स्टूडेंट्स हैं उनके क्लास आज नहीं वहाँ होने दिए और यहाँ पे भेजकर इस मजलिस की रौनक बढ़ाई। और इसके लिए मैं शोबे कानून, शोबे एजुकेशन, NSS वॉलंटियर्स, शोबे EMRC, शोबे लाइब्रेरी साइंस के सभी तलबा और तालिबात का बहुत ममनून हूँ। ये प्रोग्राम आपके लिए था, हमें खुशी है आप बहुत इत्मीनान से यहाँ पर तशरीफ़ रखे आप रखा आपने, और इंतहाई दिलचस्पी के साथ आपने ये सुना, तो हम उम्मीद करते हैं कि आज से यहाँ आप कुछ सीख के ही जाएंगे।